My stepfather kicked me out at 17. Decades later, he screamed when he found out my husband owns the company he's being evicted from. Your one click helps more than you know. Subscribe and drop a comment saying where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story goes. I still remember the sound of my suitcase hitting the concrete. That hollow thud that echoed through our Philadelphia neighborhood at 2 in the morning. I was 17, standing in my pajamas on the sidewalk watching Dalton Hodge, my stepfather of 8 years, throw my belongings out the second-story window like they were garbage. My mama stood behind him, silent, her face turned away from the window. That silence hurt worse than his screaming. You think you're grown? You think you can disrespect me in my house? Dalton's voice boomed through the night. Our neighbor's lights flickered on. Mrs. Simpson from next door peeked through her curtains. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Then you can live grown. Get out. My crime? I'd questioned why he'd spent my college fund. The $8,000 my late father had left me. Money Mama had promised would stay untouched until I turned 18. I'd found the bank statements in the trash. He'd bought a motorcycle. A goddamn motorcycle while I was working double shifts at Burger King to save for Temple University. Dalton, please, I'd begged earlier that evening, holding those crumpled statements. That was my daddy's money. He died so I could have a future. His hand had connected with my face so fast I didn't see it coming. The crack echoed through our small living room. Your daddy's dead. I'm the man in this house now. You'll learn respect, Allison. But I didn't learn respect. I learned survival. And I learned that blood doesn't always mean loyalty. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones you need protection from. Standing on that sidewalk, I kept hoping Mama would come down. He had to come down. We'd been inseparable before Dalton came into our lives when I was 9. She taught me to braid hair in her kitchen, let me help her with her catering business, promised me we'd always be a team. Me and you against the world, baby girl, she used to say. But when Dalton appeared, charming, employed with his deep voice and expensive cologne, something shifted. He'd swept her off her feet after Daddy's death. Suddenly his opinions mattered more than mine. His comfort came before my needs. His rules replaced our routines. I heard our front door creak open. Hope flickered in my chest. Mama. I called out, my voice breaking. She stood in the doorway, her silhouette backlit by the hallway light. For a moment I thought she'd changed her mind. Then she spoke, her words careful and rehearsed. Allison, you need to apologize to Dalton. You need to show some gratitude. He didn't have to take us in after your father died. Take us in. The words felt like another slap. Mama, this was Daddy's house. We owned this house free and clear. She flinched but didn't argue. Because we both knew the truth. 6 months after they married, she'd added Dalton's name to the deed. For our family, she'd said then. I was too young to understand what she was giving away. Just apologize, baby. Come back inside. We can work this out. Her voice cracked, but she didn't move toward me. Tell him to give me back my money first. I stood straighter, despite shaking. Tell him to return what Daddy left me. Mama's face crumbled. Then Dalton appeared behind her, his hand possessive on her shoulder. She made her choice, Denise. Let her go. He pulled her back inside. The door closed. The lock clicked. That's when I understood. I'd already lost my mother. Jamal Tucker had been my best friend since middle school. The skinny kid who'd shared his lunch when I forgot mine, who'd walked me home when boys bothered me, who'd held me when I cried after Daddy's funeral. At 2:15 that morning, shivering on the sidewalk with my garbage bag luggage, I called him. Say less. I'm coming. No questions. No lectures. Just showing up. That was Jamal. 15 minutes later, his beat-up Honda Civic pulled up. He jumped out, took one look at my swollen cheek, and his whole body went rigid. Did he? Don't. I couldn't talk about it yet. Just get me out of here. Jamal's apartment was a cramped studio in West Philly, but it became my sanctuary. His aunt, Miss Lorraine, lived in the building and brought me clothes, food, and hugs that felt like home. "Baby, you're family now," she said, her warm brown eyes fierce with protection. "Don't you worry about nothing." I slept on Jamal's couch for 3 months. Every morning I woke up to the smell of his terrible coffee and his worst singing. He'd already be up, dressed in his pizza delivery uniform, counting tips from the night before. "Rent's due Friday," he'd say casually, never mentioning that my name wasn't on the lease, that he was covering my share, that he was skipping meals so I could eat. "I'll pay you back," I promised weakly. "I know you will. You're gonna be somebody." His confidence in me never wavered even when mine did. Especially on those nights when I'd wake up crying, when the rejection felt too heavy, when I missed my mama so much I could barely breathe. "You think I'll ever talk to her again?" I asked one night. Jamal was quiet for a long moment. "I think she'll have to live with what she chose. And you'll have to decide if you can forgive it." I graduated high school by the skin of my teeth, walking across that stage with my head high despite everything. Mama didn't come. I'd sent her an invitation, hand-delivered it to the house actually, waiting on the porch like a stranger while Dalton watched TV inside. She took the card through a crack in the door, her eyes red but her lips sealed. "I'll try," she whispered. But trying wasn't the same as showing up. The empty seat in the audience felt like a wound, but Miss Lorraine and Jamal filled the void, screaming my name like I'd won Olympic gold. "That's my girl," Miss Lorraine hollered, embarrassing me in the best way. After the ceremony she took us to Red Lobster, the fancy one downtown, and ordered everything I wanted. "You earned this, Allison. Every bit of it." Without my college fund, Temple was impossible. But the community college had rolling admissions and financial aid. I enrolled in business management classes, working full-time at a call center to pay tuition. The work was soul-crushing, angry customers screaming about bills, managers timing our bathroom breaks, the fluorescent lights giving me headaches that lasted for days. But I showed up. Every single day. Jamal was grinding too, working 3 jobs: pizza delivery, weekend security, and late-night warehouse shifts. We'd pass each other like ships, him leaving as I came home, me heading out as he crashed on the couch. "We're gonna make it, Key," he'd mumble half asleep. "Watch." I believed him. I had to believe him. Because the alternative, that I'd end up broken and dependent like Mama, terrified me more than poverty ever could. At 19, I landed an entry-level position at a property management firm. The pay was terrible, but it had benefits and room for growth. My boss, Mr. Alexander, noticed my work ethic. "You remind me of my daughter," he said. "Hungry. Good. Stay hungry." I stayed starving. The first time I saw Darius Erickson, he was arguing with our receptionist about a late fee on his rental property. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary, but his eyes, deep brown and intense, held something I recognized. Frustration. Ambition. That specific exhaustion that comes from working twice as hard for half the credit. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I sent that payment on the 3rd. Your system is delayed, not my check." His voice was controlled but firm. Professional. The receptionist, Kelly, was having none of it. "Sir, our records show. Your records are wrong." He pulled out his phone, showing her a bank statement. "See? Cleared on the 3rd. I need to speak to someone who can actually fix this instead of wasting both our time." I shouldn't have intervened. I was just an administrative assistant, barely above Kelly in the hierarchy, but something made me speak up. "I can help you, sir. Let me pull up your account." His eyes met mine, surprised. Kelly glared, but I was already walking toward my desk and he followed. 5 minutes later I'd found the error. A processing delay on our end. You're absolutely right. The payment cleared on the 3rd. I'll waive the late fee and note this in your file. Thank you. He glanced at my nameplate. Allison, you just saved me a headache and $50. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his whole face. You're good at your job. I try to be. Professional. Keep it professional, I told myself even as my heart did a stupid little flutter. Can I buy you coffee? As a thank you. He was already pulling out his business card. I own a construction company. Always looking for good people. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into months of late-night conversations, him telling me about building his business from scratch, me sharing my dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. We were both fighters, both hungry, both refusing to accept the limitations the world tried to place on us. Jamal didn't trust Darius at first. He's too smoothkey. Too polished. What's a guy like that want with? He stopped himself, but I heard what he didn't say. Asterisk with someone like you. Someone broke. Someone broken. Asterisk. Say it, Mal. I crossed my arms. We were in his apartment. My apartment too, technically, though I'd finally saved enough to start looking for my own place. You think I'm not good enough for him? That's not what I'm saying. Jamal ran his hands over his fade, frustrated. I'm saying guys with money, with that kind of success. They're used to getting what they want. And I don't want him using you. Maybe he actually likes me. Did you consider that? My voice rose. We never fought, but this felt important. Darius felt important. Maybe I'm worthy of someone successful and ambitious and... Of course you're worthy. Jamal grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. Key, you're the smartest, strongest person I know. But I've seen you hurt. I've seen you broken on my bathroom floor, crying until you threw up because your own mama chose a man over you. I can't watch that happen again. The anger drained out of me. He was right, I was terrified too. Terrified that Darius would see through me, see the girl who wasn't wanted and leave. He's different, Mal. I feel it. Okay. Jamal pulled me into a hug. But if he hurts you, I'm catching a case. Just so we're clear. 6 months into our relationship, Darius took me to meet his parents. They lived in Mount Airy in one of those beautiful stone houses with actual crown molding and a yard. His mother, Elena, was a retired nurse. His father, Clarence, was a postal worker who'd invested in real estate on the side. They were warm, successful, stable, everything my family wasn't. So, Allison, Darius tells us you're in property management? Elena passed me sweet potatoes, her smile genuine. That's wonderful. Such a stable field. Darius proposed on the rooftop of the building where we first met, the Philadelphia skyline glittering behind him like a promise. Allison Davis, you're the most driven, most resilient person I've ever met. You see the world not for what it is, but for what it could be. That's how I see you, not for where you came from, but for where you're going. And I want to go there with you. Will you marry me? The ring was modest. He'd built a business, not a fortune, not yet, but it was perfect. Yes, I whispered, then louder, yes. We kissed as the city watched, and for the first time since that night on the sidewalk, I felt truly chosen. Truly wanted. Planning the wedding meant confronting a question I'd avoided for 3 years. Did I invite Mama? I hadn't spoken to her since graduation. A few times I'd driven past the house, our house, Daddy's house, but never stopped. Once I saw her in the yard hanging laundry. She looked older, tired. I'd almost gotten out of the car, but then Dalton appeared and I'd driven away, crying so hard I had to pull over. You should reach out, Miss Lorraine advised over coffee. Not for her, baby. For you. So you don't carry this weight forever. I wrote the letter 3 times before getting it right. Mama, I'm getting married. His name is Darius Erickson and he's good to me. Better than I knew I deserved. I'd like you to be there, but I need you to understand something. I'm inviting you, not Dalton. He lost the right to be part of my life when he put his hands on me. If you can't come without him, I understand. But I need you to know I survived. Despite everything, I survived. Your daughter, Allison. I mailed it on a Tuesday. By Friday, she'd responded. The letter was short, written in her careful cursive. Allison, baby, I'm so happy for you. I've prayed for this. But I can't come without Dalton. We're married. We're a unit. I hope you understand. I love you. Always have. Always will. Mama. I read it once, then put it in a drawer. Jamal found me an hour later, dry-eyed and eerily calm. She's not coming, I said. She chose him. Again. The wedding was beautiful despite, or maybe because of, Mama's absence. Miss Lorraine walked me down the aisle, crying so hard she could barely see. Your daddy would be so proud, she whispered. Jamal was Darius's best man, finally warming up to my husband after months of protective skepticism. You treat her right, he told Darius before the ceremony, or I become your worst nightmare. I plan to treat her like the queen she is, Darius had responded, shaking Jamal's hand. You have my word. The honeymoon was a long weekend in the Poconos, all we could afford, but it felt like paradise. Lying in bed, Darius traced my collarbone, his touch reverent. Tell me your biggest dream, Mrs. Erickson. What do you want in 5 years? I want to matter, I said honestly. I want to be so successful, so established that no one can ever throw me away again. I want to be untouchable. His eyes darkened with understanding. Then let's build that together. And we did. Darius's construction company, Erickson Development, started landing bigger contracts. First renovating row homes, then entire commercial buildings. I climbed the ladder at the property management firm, becoming assistant manager, then director of operations. We worked 16-hour days, ate dinners at our desks, sacrificed weekends and holidays. But we were building something. By year 3 of our marriage, Darius had 20 employees. By year 5, 50. By year 7, we'd moved into our first house, a modest 3-bedroom in Germantown that felt like a palace. I'd started my own property management consulting business on the side, and it was growing faster than I'd imagined. Developers wanted my expertise. My opinion mattered. I mattered. We should celebrate, Darius said the night we closed on the house. Champagne, fancy dinner, the works. Or, I countered, grinning, we could save that money and invest in your next project. He pulled me close, laughing. This is why I married you. 12 years after Dalton kicked me out, my phone rang at 3 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something, instinct maybe or fate, made me pick up. Allison. The voice was familiar but unfamiliar, aged and brittle. Baby, it's Mama. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. Darius stirred beside me. What's wrong? I whispered, though part of me didn't care. 12 years of silence, and she called at 3 a.m.? It's Dalton. Her voice cracked. He lost his job 6 months ago. We're losing the house, Allison. The bank's foreclosing. I didn't know who else to call. The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking audacity. I laughed. A cold, brittle sound. You didn't know who else to call? Mama, you had 12 years to call. 12 years to check if I was alive, homeless, dead in a ditch. You chose him over me every single day for 12 years. And now you want help. Baby, please. Don't baby me. My voice shook with rage I didn't know I'd been holding. Where was this energy when I was 17, sleeping on a couch, working 3 jobs just to eat? Where was this when I graduated college with honors and you weren't there? When I got married and you picked him over watching me walk down the aisle. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the night you let him throw me out like trash. I was standing now pacing. Darius was fully awake, watching me with concern. You stood there and let him steal my inheritance. You let him hit me. You chose his comfort over my safety. So no, you don't get to call me now because you need something. You don't get to use me as a backup plan because your meal ticket ran out. Allison, I'm begging. I hung up. My hands trembled. Darius pulled me into his arms. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. The calls kept coming, voicemails, texts, even a letter. Mama was desperate. They were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Dalton had burned through their savings. They needed $15,000 to catch up. I had $15,000. Hell, I had 10 times that. But I didn't send a penny. 3 months after Mama's phone call, Darius came home with news that made my blood run cold and my heart race simultaneously. Remember that foreclosure auction I mentioned? The one with the bundle of properties in North Philly. The distressed assets? I was making dinner, trying to focus on normal, everyday things. Yeah, you were thinking about bidding. I did more than think about it. I won the bid. He set his briefcase down, his expression careful. 20 properties, including several houses on. Allison, baby, one of them is your childhood home. The one Dalton is living in. The knife I was holding clattered into the sink. What? I didn't know until the paperwork came through. The address looked familiar, so I checked. He pulled me close, his voice gentle. I now own the property where Dalton Hodge lives. I'm technically his new landlord. The irony was so sharp it could cut. The house my father bought that my mother gave to Dalton was now owned by my husband. What are the terms? I asked, my business brain taking over. Standard foreclosure acquisition. He has 60 days to vacate or negotiate a rental agreement. Darius cupped my face. But this is your call, Allison. Completely your call. I can sell it separately, I can work with him, I can... No. The word came out harder than I intended. You follow standard procedure. He gets the legal minimum. No special treatment. If he can't pay, he's out. You're sure? Darius searched my eyes. This is your mother's home too. She made it his home when she chose him. My voice was steady. She made her choice. Now she lives with it. The eviction notice was served 2 weeks later. Standard 30-day notice, completely legal, completely cold. Erickson Development was taking possession of the property for renovation and resale. That's when Dalton called. I'd never deleted his number, though I'd never called it either. His name flashing on my screen felt like a ghost. Allison? It's Dalton. His voice was different, smaller, scared. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please. Your mother is. Goodbye, Dalton. I hung up. He called back. I blocked him. They showed up at my office 3 weeks later. I was in a meeting when my assistant Terrell knocked urgently. Miss Erickson? There's a situation in the lobby. Security's involved. My stomach dropped. I knew. Somehow I knew. I'll handle it. Mama and Dalton stood near the elevator, Dalton arguing with the security guard while Mama looked around my office building with something like awe. This was my domain. Glass walls, modern furniture, my name on the directory. Allison Erickson, Senior Property Consultant. Asterisk, she was seeing, maybe for the first time, who I'd become. You can't just throw us out. Dalton was saying, his face red. We have rights. This is private property, sir. The guard was young but professional. And you're trespassing. I'm her stepfather. Dalton pointed at me. Tell them, Allison. Tell them we're family. The lobby went quiet. My employees watched. Terrell stood ready to intervene. I felt the weight of the moment. This was it. The confrontation I'd imagined 1,000 times. I walked closer, my heels clicking on marble floors. We're not family. Family doesn't steal from children. Family doesn't use violence. Family doesn't choose spouses over daughters. My voice carried, clear and cold. You're tenants in a property my husband owns. Tenants who are being evicted for non-payment. That's the extent of our relationship. Allison. Mama's voice broke. She looked so much older, so much smaller than I remembered. Baby, please. We'll end up on the street. Like you left me? The words came out before I could stop them. I was 17, Mama. 17. You watched him throw me out and you did nothing. You had 12 years to make this right. 12 years to choose me. You never did. I was scared, she whispered. I was scared of being alone. Of losing another man. Your father died and I panicked and Dalton was there and I made mistakes, baby. I know I did. But please don't punish me forever. I'm not punishing you. My eyes burned but I wouldn't cry. Not here. I'm just not saving you. Dalton lunged at me then, his hand reaching out like it had that night 12 years ago. But he didn't reach me. Terrell was there and the security guard, and suddenly Dalton was on the ground being restrained, screaming obscenities that echoed through my professional sanctuary. You ungrateful little. His words devolved into slurs, into rage, into the truth of who he'd always been. My employees stared. Mama was crying, trying to pull him back, apologizing to everyone. Call the police, I told Terrell calmly. File a trespassing complaint and request a restraining order. That's when Mama's facade cracked. Fine. You want the truth, Allison? Your precious daddy wasn't perfect. He left us in debt. Credit cards, bad investments, everything. I had to fix it. The words hit like a physical blow. What? The college fund? There was no college fund. Your father gambled it away before he died. The insurance money barely covered his funeral. I married Dalton because we were about to lose everything. The house, the cars, everything. I did what I had to do to survive. So you lied to me. My voice was quiet now, dangerous. For 12 years, you let me think he stole from me. He didn't steal from you. There was nothing to steal. Mama's face was contorted with years of held-back truth. I let you believe it because you were so angry at Dalton and I needed you to. I needed time. I thought you'd understand eventually, that you'd see I did it for us. You did it for yourself. The pieces were clicking into place. You were scared and selfish and you found a man who'd take care of you. And when it came down to choosing between your comfort and your daughter's safety, you chose comfort. That's the real truth. Mama's face crumbled. The police arrived. Dalton was escorted out, still screaming. Mama followed, broken and sobbing. I stood in that lobby, surrounded by colleagues who'd witnessed everything and felt nothing. Just empty. Darius arrived 20 minutes later, having heard from Terrell. He found me in my office, staring at nothing. Key. My whole life has been a lie. The eviction went through. Dalton and Mama moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Chester. The best they could afford on Dalton's unemployment and Mama's part-time catering. I heard this through Miss Lorraine, who heard it from a cousin who knew Mama's sister. I didn't ask. I didn't need to know. Jamal asked me once if I regretted it. We were having dinner. Him, me, Darius, Miss Lorraine, celebrating the opening of Darius's newest development project. Do you wish you'd helped them? I considered the question honestly. No. That probably makes me a terrible person, but no. They had 12 years to build a bridge. They only came back when they needed something from me. That's not love. That's convenience. That's boundaries, Miss Lorraine corrected, squeezing my hand. You're allowed to have them. The house. My father's house, my childhood home, was renovated and sold within 6 months. A young family bought it, their excitement palpable as they signed the papers. It's our first house, the wife told me, her eyes shining. We're going to fill it with love. Good, I said. It deserves that. Ericsson Development continued to grow. My consulting business expanded into 3 cities. Darius and I talked about starting a family, about legacy, about building something that would last beyond us. We'd made it, not despite our struggles but because of them. Sometimes late at night I wonder about Mama. If she's happy, if she regrets her choices. He thinks about me. But those thoughts come less frequently now, less urgently. I've built a life where I'm chosen every day, by my husband, my friends, myself. I ran into her once 2 years after the eviction. In a grocery store of all places. She looked tired but not broken. We stared at each other across the produce section. She opened her mouth to speak. I shook my head, not angry, just done, and walked away. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some love isn't meant to be salvaged. And some daughters need to save themselves because their mothers never will. I am no longer that 17-year-old girl on the sidewalk, abandoned and afraid. I am Allison Ericsson, survivor, entrepreneur, wife, success story. I am the woman I built from the wreckage of that night. And I am enough. Finally, permanently, undeniably enough.